Um, this is my fourth year at St. James, although my first year teaching this course, as I'll elaborate on in a moment. A little about my background. I went to the University of the South for my Bachelor of Arts, attended Middlebury College for my graduate degree in English. My wife, Katie, is also an English teacher here, and we live on campus, of course, with our five-month-old daughter, Britta. In addition to teaching photography and English, I am one of the yearbook advisors and also do quite a bit of photography for the school on campus. So I'm teaching two sections of world literature, two of American literature, and then the one section of this class, Introduction to Digital Photo. This is a totally new course this year. It's new to the school, first time I've taught it. There is, in fact, a lot that is totally new this year with the adjustments that we've made for COVID-19 and the new semester system. So a lot to get used to all at once. But some things that I would like your students to come away with after taking this class are as follows. So I want them to be able to be comfortable with the mechanics of photography, to be able to perform the mechanics of photography. But beyond that, also to be able to use their intellects to make some choices about photography and to consider the work of others intellectually. So not just mechanics, but also thinking a little bit about meaning and choices that are made in producing a photograph. So, of course, the basics, they will need to be able to perform just the basic mechanics, as I mentioned, the operation of the camera, right? So shooting in manual mode, understanding the exposure triangle, which would be aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Exposure being a huge part of what a camera does, right? So can they operate the camera? They also need to be thinking about composition. So we've been talking a lot in class about things like leading lines, about rule of thirds, rule of odds, repetition, elements in a photo that contribute to its composition. I'd like them to be able to not always necessarily think about these before taking the photo, but after taking the photo, be able to understand what they did, what worked, why did it work, why do these things work in other photographs. So composition is a big part of what we've been discussing. Also, we will be starting this week post-processing our images in Adobe Lightroom, which is a powerful editing software that we will get to run on the shiny new iMacs up in the new Pohanka building to learn about how we can make our photos stronger after they've been taken, dealing with things like color, black and white, white balance, some selective editing of exposure, like using brushes in Lightroom, any number of things that will help the students to take an already strong image and hopefully make it stronger, and also allow them to recreate what they subjectively saw when they took the picture. Because of course a camera simply just what the sensor picks up, but there is this whole other element, again, this intellectual element to photography that might involve the imagination too, right? So we'll go not too deep. We're not going to do anything crazy like replacing backgrounds or the sort of things that you could do in Photoshop, but simply editing images to look the best that they can. We'll be working on, we have been working on some weekly photo projects. So for example, a couple weeks ago, we did one on just shadows, images that had to have shadows as their subject or heavily feature shadows. The one we did last week was reflections. So a similar kind of idea, but using reflections in glass or in water. We'll be doing some documentary photo projects, a number of other things as well that I hope will get them to think outside of the box of just, ooh, there's a pretty sunset, right? We've also talked about photo cliches and how to avoid photographic cliches. In addition to these weekly works that they produce, they also will be individually presenting on one of the great photographers of the 20th century. So each Friday, one student will present for about 20, 25 minutes the work of one of these sort of legendary photographers of the 20th century, so that we hope we can understand better the history of image making, but also, again, what has worked in the past and what makes it work compositionally. And also in those discussions, they talk about the philosophy of that photographer. They're, digging up some good quotes from the photographer, talking a little about equipment. Of course, that would all be film equipment at that point for the most part, but still thinking about how the tools that we use make a difference in the final image that we produce. So I look forward to hearing what they have to say each week, and I hope that it will also help them to, as students, understand a bit of the history, of course, but also really consider what a very successful photographer has done and why they have been successful. So those are sort of the basics of what we've been covering in class and will cover. We have, of course, had some routine quizzes that make up part of the grade, tests on things like terminology and how to operate the camera. But we'll move away from that more as the students have operable skills and more into the production of work, giving feedback, learning how to give constructive criticism on other people's work, and to, of course, evaluate their own work as they go. So far, I'm having fun teaching the class. It's kind of a nice shift from the 4 sections of English that I teach. I feel like the kids are having fun so far. It's neat to see them starting to actually put into action the things we've been talking in class. So yes, fun class all around so far, but I hope also intellectually challenging a bit as well. If you ever need to get in touch with me, I did want to mention that email is the best way to do it. My email is posted on Blackbaud, jellis@stjames.edu. And also, Blackbaud is where most of the assignments will appear. I do have them submitting some of their work on Microsoft SharePoint because it's just easier to deal with image files there. But if they're struggling at all, remind them Blackbaud is source number 1. And if they need to get in touch with me or you need to get in touch with me, email is the most efficient way to do that. Thank you for your attention and for entrusting me with your children this semester.